Hello and welcome to Pursuit of Perfect Systems review for the Chord Electronics Hugo TT. Now the TT stands for tabletop. In this review we will be solely concentrating on the DAC section of the Hugo TT, and at a later date hopefully we will be producing a headphone review obviously for this DAC. And I tell you what, let's just put that down and let's cut to the brass tacks. This is a fantastic DAC, and I just want to congratulate Chord and I want to congratulate Rob Watts because you have made a brilliant DAC. Okay then, let's just start off this review by me being 100% honest. This is the first Chord Electronics product that I've heard that's actually lit me up with its performance. Now I knew it was there, I knew it was coming, and I've only heard so many products within the range, but this is the first one that's really lit me up, the first one that's got me excited about Chord Electronics and what they do and what they can do. So this review is going to be, I'm going to get through the nuts and bolts of it as quick as I can so that we can get to the good bit, we can get to the bit, the sound quality bit, because this is absolutely brilliant, this DAC, it's phenomenal. But let's get through the other bits so we can get to the good part. Okay, let's talk about the design of the Hugo TT, and as a stereotypical audiophile, this ticks a lot of my boxes. For starters, it's big, box ticked. It's heavy, 3 kilograms, box ticked. It feels solid and well made, box ticked. It has more connections than I'm ever going to need, box ticked. It has an on-off switch, box ticked. It has a display so that I know what I'm doing and where I am, box ticked. There's no need with this DAC to buy any specific cables or any funky adapters, box ticked. The manufacturer themselves call it high-end, box ticked. Okay, however, it wouldn't be called if it didn't have a quirk or two. Now, unusually, this DAC has 2 USB inputs, one called SD and one called HD. Now, HD is designed for high-res music files and high-res, high sample rate files. And I think SD is designed for kind of low bitrate files, maybe CD quality. However, that's a strange design because, I can't see people running 2 separate computers for 2 separate music files. And I also don't think it's sensible to, partway through a listening session, have to start unplugging and plugging in USB cables. So to me, having 2 USB inputs is an odd design, especially when only one of them has galvanic isolations, which is the HD one. So that's the one people are going to use. Also, the feel of this DAC, it's got a little bit of a strange feel in terms of its finish, but I actually really like it. I personally really like it. I think it's just a very smooth, obviously aluminium, but lovely, really lovely finish. The fit and finish on this DAC is superb. We've got our lovely circular window looking through onto our chipset. Brilliant. We've got really nice milled out writing of the shape of Hugo TT. Some curves, and some additions and stuff, all really nice. The fit and finish is nice, and as I previously said, it's heavy, it feels really well made, feels like it's going to last, and this ticks all my boxes. Okay, specification. The Hugo TT uses the exact same Spartan 6 FPGA DAC chip which you'll find in the 2 Qt and the Hugo. This has 26,300 odd tap length filters and is a Watts transient aligned WTA design. However, in the Hugo TT, they have doubled the battery capacity by comparison to the Hugo, and they've added super capacitors to the design. Now that is a technology borrowed from Formula One, and in particular they've put in 1 million microfarads of supercapacitance into the Hugo TT. Now that's designed to do 2 things. 1, extend the battery life, and 2, improve performance. Okay, looking at the inputs, it's as we expect. We have coaxial input via BNC and 2 USB inputs. Now both of these support files up to 32-bit 384 kilobytes or DSD to 128. There is also an optical input, but that only supports 24 by 192. Now the output is where this DAC gets a little interesting, because it's the first DAC in the Chord range to offer balanced outputs, which is another big tick in a lot of audiophile boxes. And we also get single-ended outputs, as we expect. Now the build quality and the finish quality on those is fantastic. There is galvanic isolation on the HD USB import, and from personal experience, galvanic isolation is a very, very good thing. Okay, live with ability. This DAC is the perfect audiophile companion. You plug it in, you can switch it on, you can switch it off. Once you switch it on, it stays on, ready to go. Having a power switch makes life so much easier. For me, there's nothing worse than just having to pull the power on your electronics, especially when you spent a lot of money on, on your hi-fi equipment. I hate just pulling the power on them. So having an on-off switch is a simple thing, but a really nice thing. One other thing to note with this DAC, now I'm not 100% if it's the DAC or if it's the musical Fidelity new Vista 800 amplifier that I'm using. However, the sound takes about an hour to sound its best. So bear that in mind. It will sound its best after an hour, but boy, it's worth the wait. Okay, we have quickly moved on to the sound quality section for this DAC, and that is because this is an outstanding DAC. This is a seriously good piece of hi-fi equipment. This is a seriously good DAC, and it's got me pumped up and it's got me excited. However, we're going to start with the negative singular, and that is personal. And for me, the only thing that I could criticise this DAC for, the only thing I could criticise it for is, after listening to it, I felt that the presentation was just a touch on the safe side, which is a bit of an unusual one from my experiences from Chord Electronics, because they never play it safe with it. Now that could be a system synergy thing. This could be designed to fit nicely with the rest of their equipment, which is, I found, a little bit forward in presentation. So if the DAC comes across as a little bit safe sounding, then you've got a nice mix. However, I was able to fix that. I placed some isolation products on the top of it, and that was it. That was enough. And then that puts us on to our positives. Now there's a lot of positives to go through here, so knuckle down with me and bear with me, but I promise you it will be worth it. The first thing you notice with the Hugo TT is the system's transparency. Your speakers disappear, but not only do your speakers disappear, your room disappears as well. You are lost. You completely get lost from where you are, and you're completely immersed in the music, and that is fantastic. And that's just the start. That's just the start. The second thing you notice with this DAC is the bass. Now, not only is the bass full and round and solid and articulate and controlled and detailed, it's also insightful. It lets you look into the bass quality. Now that is something I've not experienced before, and I'll use a crude example just from one song. Now, if you think of the beginning of the song "Sweet Like Chocolate Boy," you have like a set of bass notes, boom, boom, boom. Now I've heard that loads of times on loads of different systems. However, with this DAC, those booms actually sounded like an instrument string, and I didn't think they would. Didn't think that was made like that. I assumed that was a keyboard related sound, which it could well be. But with this DAC, I could actually hear into the bass to pick that out. Now that's a crude example, but that's just one example of just how insightful this DAC is. You get the expected FPGA clarity and precision. As I've mentioned in a previous review, with this DAC technology, the starts and stops of notes and the start and stop of each element of the music just seems clearer and more controlled. However, with the Hugo TT, we get an even lower noise floor. There is even clearer and cleaner starts and stops to each element in the music. And now that was a real surprise, but a very welcome one. Another real surprise with the Hugo TT is just how rich and how full and how colourful the musical presentation is. And with that, Each element of the music has proper scale and has proper size and is full and it's rich and it's believable in its presentation. Now, again, that was a real surprise, and to get that mixed with the precision and the clarity that we get from the FPGA technology DAC, and we're starting to talk, aren't we? We're starting to sort of, hopefully I'm starting to get across just some of how good this DAC really is. And it goes further than that. So impressive is the fact that whatever you're listening to, it doesn't matter what music you're listening to, what genre of music you're listening to, what you're very aware of is you are listening to a musical performance. You sit and look and listen to a musical performance laid out in front of you, and it's played to you and never at you. Now, that type of presentation goes fantastically well with live type of music, you know, concerts or just live recorded type music. And if live recorded type music is your thing, if you listen to a lot of that, this DAC is going to be right up your street. It's going to have you grinning like a Cheshire cat. Better than that, you feel close to the music. You know, people talking hi-fis about veils being lifted, etc., etc., but that is what they mean. You feel like you are closer to the original performance or closer to the musical performance, i.e. that musical performance is more believable, it's more realistic, and it's more enjoyable. There is an inherent calmness to the presentation of this DAC, and that goes with what we was just speaking about. The music's always presented to you, it's never at you, and that's regardless of volume. And you're always aware of the soundstage, you're always aware of the musical performance. And this DAC is really balanced, really even-handed. You get the bass solidity and control and the perfect amount of bass with a relaxed, clear, crisp, creamy and rich mid-range with all the detail and clarity and precision that you expect from Chord electronics, that you expect from FPGA DACs. You get it all, you get the whole lot, and it's fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. It's fantastic to listen to. It's so interesting, it's so enjoyable to listen to music presented that way. Another brilliant thing about this DAC is just the way it elevates what you're listening to. It doesn't punish anything that you listen to, it just elevates everything you listen to. It makes it better than you expect it to be and better than you thought it could be. This DAC, the musical presentation, holds your interest. It makes you want to listen to more. It makes you want to listen to more styles of music. It makes you want to go and hunt down new music to listen to, because it all sounds so good that you could listen for hours without fatigue, and you want to listen again the next day and the day after, because the music's so enjoyable. It's brought to life. There's theatre, and yet it's exciting and smooth. It really is something. Really, really is something. Listening to music, the musical presentation from this DAC is so good. It reminds you of why you are an audiophile and why you love hi-fi and why you love this hobby. Now, it's so good, I'm sure it would make most people want to be an audiophile just so they can listen to it. Okay, I just want to do a quick comparison with the 2Q because they essentially use the same DAC chip. However, the Hugo TT is 3 times the price, and I'm sure people would like to know, is it worth it? With a simple answer, yes. So let's do the quick comparison just briefly. The emotional connection to the music with the Hugo TT is significantly greater than with the 2Q. The Hugo TT is smoother, fuller, richer, more detailed, with a bigger soundstage and greater scale, with more detail, more precision and more control and better bass and fuller bass all at the same time. The Hugo TT doesn't punish content like the 2Q does. It elevates all your content to make it sound better, and probably better than you realised it could sound. The Hugo TT is much better at lower volumes than the 2 Cube because of its fuller and richer sound. The Hugo TT takes music just as seriously as the 2 Cube, but doesn't come with any of the negatives of that trait. The Hugo TT is a more insightful presentation, allowing you into the music more. Okay, the conclusion for the Hugo TT. Now, Chord Electronics, you have absolutely smashed it with the Hugo TT. Absolutely smashed it. And if you're borrowing technology from a Formula One team, then it's got to be from Lewis Hamilton's car, because you have got a winner on your hands here. This thing is absolutely phenomenally good. This is the perfect example of where a company have been able to push technology, but not at the expense of musical involvement and not at the expense of musical enjoyment, actually to the benefit of musical involvement and the benefit of the musical enjoyment. Okay, let's not beat about the bush. This DAC costs approximately £3,200, so it's far from cheap. However, you actually get a hell of a lot of performance for your money, and the quality of this DAC means it can be used in a variety of systems. That clean, clear, precise, full, rich sound that elevates whatever you listen to is going to work well with all systems and all speakers, and I think for all people. This DAC at this price is going to be a star piece of kit as part of systems where each individual component costs significantly more than this DAC. This DAC has that magical quality where it elevates the music you're listening to something special, and it really is something to behold, to hear it. Now, it does it by giving you more music. I absolutely love this DAC. This has been a joy to listen to. It's been a joy to spend time with, and I would love to spend more time with this DAC. It's so good. I personally think I could listen to it all day, every day, forever. And I am ultra critical and ultra fussy about everything that I listen to, and I really cannot find flaw, I cannot find fault in the presentation of this DAC. The bass is so good, a creamy, detailed, crisp mid-range, airy treble, but detailed treble at the same time. It's crisp and it's precise, but it's smooth and it's rich, and it's an intoxicating, exciting listen that's really insightful all at the same time. There is literally not a negative there. So if anybody has seen a review of mine before, then they might recognise this. Now these are specifically for this DAC. Now this DAC deserves it. I love this DAC. And I feel as a reviewer, this would be the perfect DAC to have as a reference DAC, because it's not stupidly priced and yet it performs at such a high level. It sets an extremely high bar for other DACs to follow. I absolutely love this DAC. This DAC is so good, it joins the elite of products that have come through that I've termed great and termed special. And because of that, I've decided to create an award only for the very elite products that come through. So the products that come through the Pursuit of Perfect system that are great, that are special, are going to get a certified to be special award from Pursuit of Perfect system, and this DAC gets it. Okay, I started this section of the review by saying that this is the first product from Chord Electronics that I've heard that lit me up, and I want to just build on that a little bit, because after spending some time with this Hugo TT, which is in their kind of, they call their high-end range, you get a taste, and actually I've now feel like I've had a taste and I've experienced what Chord Electronics are actually trying to do with the music presentation that they're trying to create with their electronics and their kit. And after spending time with this Hugo TT, I get it, it makes sense. And I love it, I absolutely love it. It's fantastic way to present music. So how do we rate this DAC? And I've been singing its praises, I've been waxing lyrical about it, so I'm pretty sure you already know that I'm going to give it a double thumbs up, and if I had more thumbs, I would be giving it more thumbs up as well. Now this is the next question is, would I buy this with my own money? And sometimes that is an interesting question because there's caveats and stuff involved, but not in this instance. I absolutely love this DAC, and for me to actually have this DAC in my reference system would mean major change, Major change to the setup, major change to everything. However, this is so good and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it so much, and I love the musical presentation from it so much. I would do that personally. I would completely change that whole system to incorporate this DAC for music. So yes, I would buy this DAC. However, this is where things get a little bit interesting, because Chord Electronics have now released this. This is the Hugo 2. Now this uses the very latest Chord Electronics FPGA DAC, which actually has twice the amount of tap length filters as the Hugo TT. So what is actually better? Tap length filters or super capacitors? Check back in the channel, the review and comparison is coming soon.